A very good day. We're starting in English language commentaries on Bulgarian Analytica, and today's story is a long-anticipated act of President Putin in expelling back or retaliating against the expulsion of a Russian diplomat, the deputy military attaché to Sofia. So yesterday, finally, the decision came in that Moscow, the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, is expelling in reciprocal, what is stated was a reciprocal move, a Bulgarian diplomat from the embassy in Moscow. The full definition of reciprocity does not fit into Russia's act because the expelled diplomat was a counselor, and a counselor is a higher rank than the first secretary that the deputy military attaché in Sofia was ascribed as a diplomat. But this is a minor detail. What is important is that later in the day, President Putin sent a very strong message to Prime Minister Boriss that he is dragging his feet, and therefore Russia will turn from a carrot, sort of trying to incentivize the positive behavior of the Bulgarian government, into the stick part of the diplomacy. So he warned with the repercussions, and one of that range of repercussion was a possible bypass of Bulgaria that Gazprom had on the cards. Now, what is important in President Putin's warning is that he is bluffing again, because South Stream, in the end, was not the problem of Bulgaria, because ultimately, and what actually Prime Minister Borisov has repeated after his meeting this morning with the Russian ambassador, that whatever Bulgaria does, it has to stick to its duties and obligations as a member of the European Union and NATO. And the implicit message in that was that, okay, we can do a lot of things, but we cannot replace Brussels, both as a siege of EU and NATO, because some of the decisions, including that on Turk Stream and the Bulgarian segment of it, would be taken in Brussels. So, in effect, we are approaching the same stage in the end game that we watched in the final days of South Stream. Bulgaria is expected to deliver more than it can actually deliver. It is not a project that would be regulated by the national regulator, and Prime Minister Borisov, regardless of his magic and his ability to turn on and abuse even his charm in Brussels and Washington, meeting with President Trump, of course, was unable to secure a green light and an exemption from the gas directive, which would have allowed him to provide guarantees and a near 100% usage for Gazprom of the transit capacity of the said pipeline. So, facing a reality check between what he can deliver and what he can't, Prime Minister Borisov is feeling an increased pressure from Mr. Putin. And the end is absolutely not only near, but it is a certainty that we would face another South Stream ending, where Bulgaria is the culprit. The gas streams from Russia would not be able to access and use 100% of the capacity, and only 50%, which would in turn mean that Russia would be unable to control the Serbian market and also deliver on its contract for gas deliveries to Serbia and Hungary through this Turk Stream, which would again resort back to what Prime Minister Boriss is trying to achieve as a legacy. He is forced to be spending more and more on a project that he's not sure he will be able to recover the costs of. So we are very much in line with what has already happened in the sunken cost of the nuclear power plant Balkan. So we're approaching a junction where the more he invests into Extreme without a certainty for recovery of the cost, the more it would liken or be similar to the nuclear power plant Balkan. A never-ending story with lots of blame being distributed in one direction or another, and ultimately soured relations with Russia, tense relations in Brussels, and our partners. But what is more important is Mr. Putin is fully aware that of the limitations of the Bulgarian government to engage in similar action. But he's pressing on. And the reason he's pressing on, challenging Bulgaria for its limited sovereignty, is that he's speaking directly to Bulgarian Russophiles, those Bulgarian citizens that still have sympathy for Russia, and he's directly talking to them that this government is not his government. Therefore, he's trying to undermine the trust and the confidence of Bulgarians in their membership in EU and NATO. And that's what he's good at. His only problem is that we are not a candidate member of the EU and NATO. We have been long, probably 15 years and 10 years, been members of those organizations. And it's a little bit too late for us to leave the EU or NATO. Actually, that's where I'm ending, is that if you recall a month ago at a forum in Moscow, President Putin forecasted that until the year 2030, new members of EU from East Europe would be joining Great Britain in exiting the EU. That's probably what he's aiming at the end. Thank you. Until next time.